Welcome back to the main stage. We've got the inimitable Dan Wilkinson talking to us today about how to build a brilliant prototype. So Dan's going to share some top tips and ideas on how to do that. Sorry, we're slightly late. We had a few technical issues, but anyway, we are here now and ready to share with you all about building a brilliant prototype. So any questions, you can obviously use the chat, and we'll be over in the Q&A session after this main stage presentation. But over to you, Dan, if you want to share with us all about building a brilliant prototype.
Brilliant. Thanks, Lisa. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to the first afternoon session of the KCOM Innovation Hothouse. So that's me talking to you about how to build a brilliant prototype. I haven't got my usual sidekick Neil here, which is devastating for me, but I'll get to say some words as well. One thing to remember, at 3 o'clock today, we've also got Lindsay Rogers from KCOM speaking, so that'll be really interesting, so watch out for that one. Anyway, without further ado, and without wanting to promote too many other people, let's get into this one. So building a brilliant prototype, this is stage 4 in design thinking. I believe this is also an incredibly important stage in order to kind of crystallize your ideas and actually turn something out that your audience can see. And I think if you were listening to the session that this morning from Helen, she was talking about really listening to the customer, and we're listening to the customer by watching those videos that they've presented and making sure you incorporate in your prototype what they're asking for. So that's really, really important to do that. Anyway, without further ado, let's move into prototype. So for me, the prototype phase is to look for the solutions, look to start building the solutions to the problems that you've identified. And what we call this MVP, minimum viable product, or MVS, minimum viable solution, whatever the jargon says, it's basically a scaled down version of your end product. And for me, the thing that really brings this to life is the picture at the bottom. So I troll this one out a lot because it really speaks to me. I'm quite visual in that way. And what it's doing is trying to express the minimum viable product, the concept of the minimum viable product, that, okay, you might want to build a car eventually for your customer, but ultimately at the moment, what they're looking to do is to get around. So you can build them a skateboard. Probably won't put me on a skateboard. I'm too tall. I'd fall off and damage myself. But metaphorically speaking, the skateboard is where you're going to start. It's transport. It's better than walking, and it gets you going. And then that walks through the process. You can see from left to right, you have some handlebars. It's a scooter, and it's an iterative process, working with your customer all the way along. You stick some pedals on it, it becomes a bike. You put an engine in it, it's a motorbike, and then you put a roof on it, it's a car. So eventually you get to that point, but it's about iterating all the way along and really hitting the point for what your customer's looking to achieve, or what your end user's looking to achieve. And it could be as simple as paper, or it could be a piece of code for the more technically minded. But it's not about how you transmit that. It's just using the best tools that you can in order to tell the story of what you're trying to achieve, by building that prototype. And that's what the prototype's all about for us in this one. It's the outcome that we're going for. Okay, so I don't know what happened there, but my personal assistant, I won't say the S word, started transcribing what I was saying. So I hope you can still hear me. It's not stolen the microphone, but that was very strange. Good. Okay. So that threw me off slightly. Wireframes. We had a question about wireframes today, in fact, about the whole point of the wireframes. It's basically technologist's way of saying a prototype, or you might have heard a straw man, or one of my old bosses used to call it an Aunt Sally. And it's basically there to show you working. It's there for you to take what's in your mind as the prototype and start working that through. So it's been a demo without actually having the working version. Famously, the massive technology company Apple showed the original iPhone. You can find the video on YouTube. Other streaming services are available, I'm sure, but YouTube will show you where Steve Jobs is presenting the first iPhone. It's a big splash, big move for that business. But actually, that's working without any of the functionality. It's a mock-up. So he's tapping away on this iPhone, and you're supposed to be seeing on this screen that's behind him what he's doing on the iPhone. But in fact, it's all a massive mock-up. There's somebody in the background operating it, pulling the strings in order to kind of to show what he's trying to achieve. But they conquered the world with the iPhone. You know, it's everywhere now. You can't get away from it. And what it gave his customers, his customer base, was something to engage with. So it showed them what was possible, gave them the art of the possible. They had to deliver ultimately with it, but absolutely revolutionized that space and killed the competition with it. So next stage that in my mind, or the next thing you have to think of, is fail fast. It's like, and the ethos behind this is not to hide away in isolation, working in the background to hope for some big reveal. I think we'd all like to kind of keep it behind our hands all the way until the end, have a massive reveal, and everyone goes, "Wow, that's the greatest thing I've ever seen." I've fallen flat on many occasions by doing that, because you don't want to share your early workings, because they can be a bit daft, a bit stupid. But there's real magic in being able to share that and sharing your ideas nice and early, and involving your customer all the way through it. The big reveal can sometimes come with a big disappointment, so to avoid that, collaborate all the way along, and that's why we call it failing fast. So you collaborate. You get very quick feedback on what you're trying to develop, and that feedback can translate into either some slight modifications, or you might even just have to swallow your pride, tear it up, and start again. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's the idea of failing fast that we like to get out in design thinking. And I think when I think culturally about, certainly British people, but I think people in general are culturally, we're not great at accepting failure. We don't even like using the word. We try and avoid it. We've got so many different ways of saying failure and talking about failure. But I think it's often that's our detriment, that we need to be more comfortable with failing and being able to kind of to embrace that failure and learn from it and use that as a learning technique. I think the Americans are quite famous for kind of being quite comfortable with failing, and they talk about it, and culturally they incorporate people's stories in their narrative. They kind of like it. They respect people who are happy to do that. So a good failure story is as good as a success story, and it often comes before a success story. So I think I've labored the point, but yeah, fail fast. Don't be afraid to pull the ejector handle and start on something fresh and new. Okay. And yeah, so this is the other thing. Know where you're going to aim. That's where do you want to be? Where do you want to go today? I'm sure I've heard that. So what are you trying to achieve? Certainly within the Humber Tech Week Hot House, we've got a foreshortened timeline of what we're trying to achieve. We're only trying to get to the end of this week and probably the first iteration of the minimum viable product. But it's good to understand where you are. And if you go back to the illustration from the beginning, the skateboard to car illustration, we're constructing that skateboard, whether that be figuratively or metaphorically. We're drawing out those wireframes and so on and so forth. But that's where we are on this journey, and that's how you need to think about it. It's those stages that you're going through, those iterations, and all that building into this initial idea that you'll present back tomorrow. You don't have to conquer the world, just conquer Hull today. That's set your sights on that. It's what's your worst best case scenario. I know when Uber started out, famously, they wanted to just be the best taxi firm in San Francisco, or even the second best. I don't remember where they wanted to be in the rankings, but they just wanted to line their pockets and be able to look after themselves and give themselves some wages while having a bit of fun in that tech world. And we all know they went on to kind of disrupt that private hire car lock-in that we had with the taxi firm. So you might not set out to conquer the world, but your product may well translate to doing that. So yeah, that what I'm trying to get at is, where are you trying to aim? What is it you're trying to get to? you're starting this journey with the end in mind. So first step, get that prototype out the door, pull that together in whatever way, shape or form that might be. So we've looked at some of those techniques we can do. This is going to be very much, tomorrow is going to be a present back. So it might be some kind of a demo, or it might be a mood board, I think, as Neil put it, some pictures that you can put onto a slide in order to tell that story. But it's the story that's important. It's the story that's taken you from where you started out to where you've ended up, showing that working through. So it's starting with the end in mind, but that first step is tomorrow, and that present back. And that brings me to the end. Have we had any questions at all, Lisa, in the...
No questions.
No. Okay.
So far.
No.
No questions.
Even if I throw the blackboard with a question mark on it, do you reckon that'll inspire people to?
Maybe.
Okay.
That's a great comment, actually, Neil. I love the idea of aiming for something tangible and realistic. Worst, best case scenario. Love that.
Brilliant. Okay. Well, if we're closing with a one-way bit, any other thoughts, Lisa? Anything you wanted to close out with at all?
I don't think so. The only thing, I know you flagged it right at the beginning, was we've got Lindsay Rogers from KCOM in the next session at 3 o'clock. Got a question from Maria, actually, so we'll take that in a second. And I will be writing out to all of the team captains just to allocate your slot to present back tomorrow. The other thing I would just say is we've seen a few, well, actually quite a few of the teams to register their progress. And having looked at that today, there is some amazing examples of ideas starting to formulate in there. So they're really interesting reading. So if you haven't registered your progress yet, if you click on the link I sent out this morning, again, I'll send that out again in the next 20 minutes. Just start to register your progress, how you're doing, start to kind of, pull your thoughts together, because we'll use what we capture on that form to kind of support your submission. So I'd encourage your teams to do that too. So Maria's got a question, Dan, about what are examples of presenting prototypes for ideas? Okay.
I mean, it really is as simple as creating some kind of a mock-up that best tells the story. It's not over complicated. You could draw it on a PowerPoint as if it was a screen. You could draw the boxes where you expect interaction to be, represent a picture of a person if it was talking to somebody, depending on the problem that you're tackling. Take a screenshot of something that you're working on. Take a photograph, draw it out on a piece of paper. It's not so much as the fidelity of what you're trying to get across. It's literally being able to show and transmit to the people in the room as to what you're aiming to do. So if you can code something, that's great, but you may lose the way by trying to do something too complicated, that where a simple line drawing that you take a photo of can really show what you're trying to aim at, and of course you can voice over that prototype. So speaking to that wireframe is really useful. If we're in a physical situation of face-to-face, people actually build prototypes out of cardboard, and so something can be tangible. But it's allowing the judges in this case, because they're going to be doing that test, to kind of understand the experience that you're trying to convey with that prototype.
Absolutely. I'm marginally obsessed with grand designs, and I love it when the architects on there do a little cardboard mock-up of the design that they've done, because it really, that is a great example of how to bring a design to life if you're talking about a physical building. But you're right, I've seen other prototypes of things where actually they do a kind of a cartoon or something on a page, and just look, even though it's a flat structure, it just brings that to life in a way that actually no other way happens. So there is a lot of kind of horses for courses around this, isn't that? And as long as you tell the story and explain, and help the audience visualize it, it really doesn't matter how you do that.
The architecture one's a really good a good example. I've seen where architects will take out the drawing, the formal drawing that they've done, which is very neat and tidy, and then they overlay it with a piece of almost tracing paper and then draw over the top of it, and that brings it to life. So it's almost the rough work, which is helps people, really bring it to life. That's the
absolutely.
Yeah, that for me is what it's about.
What are we expecting tomorrow, Dan, then? Are we expecting, because we've spoken to a few of the teams today, are we expecting there to be a full spectrum of kind of, drawings on the back of what we used to say in the olden days, the back of a fag packet? I don't think people have fag packets these days.
What do they use now? What are things drawn on?
I don't know. What is it? I don't know. What is the day one? There's quite a few. What is the latest thing that people use to write on? So are we expecting kind of, drawings on the back of a piece of paper right the way through to kind of fully formed prototypes and everything in between? What's your thoughts then about what we've been hearing from the team?
Yeah, I mean, the people who've engaged so far, we've had some of the guys in the university team whose name escapes me because I'm rubbish with names, either of people or of things, but they sounded like they were really getting into the coding side of things, which sets a little bit of fear in my heart, because I think, well, that's a high bar to get to in order to get something you can show. Being in technology myself, when you try and demo technology, that's a little bit scary. But I mean, hats off to them. I think that would be great. And then we've been talking to other people who are, drawing out on pieces of paper, and we might see those pieces of paper photographed. And I have admiration for that as well, because I think it's really quite expressive when you see that on a page. And I actually spoke to Neil about this before this today. I said I should have drawn my slides on pieces of paper in order to show how you can do a prototype, but that ship has sailed. So yeah, it's the broad. I think we're seeing the broad spectrum, but I've not looked at any of the entries as yet, so I've not seen any of the slides. I'm gonna have to have a look at those and see what we've got coming in. But I'll be interested to see how people express themselves.
Yeah, and there is really no right answer, is there? I think that's the thing to say. So if you're at either end of that spectrum or somewhere in between, that is the right answer for you. I think it's about how you tell that story and how you bring it to life for the panel. That's really going to make the difference.
Completely.
Okay, is there any final questions on here? We'll give it another couple of seconds, or we'll hop over into the Q&A in the sessions bar at the side, and we can take some more questions there if anyone wants to chat face to face. Just give it another second.
All right, superb. All right, we'll roll over to the Q&As then. Thank you very much, all.
Thank you. Bye.